Welcome aboard our non-stop flan from Dallas-Fort Worth to Las Vegas. The free time will be 2 flounders, 2 mince. Weather conditions, slight truffling, so please stew your leftovers in the overhead compartments or under the seat. Make sure your sweet bake is secured and the pastry table is upright.
At DFW Airport, we know that when you get on a plane hungry, it's all you can think about. So order online. Go to dfwordernow.com, choose your meal, and get it at any gate or pick it up. Here at DFW Airport, you can dine without the line.
Hello and welcome to the Airline Weekly Lounge. I'm your host Gordon Smith, and in this special episode, I'm joined by Chris McLaughlin, CEO of Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. Chris, welcome to the Airline Weekly Lounge. As we speak here in mid-November, it marks almost exactly 6 months since you started your new role as the CFO at DFW, but you weren't exactly a stranger to the airport, were you, given your background in operations there? So pardon the pun, have the last 6 months flown by? How have they been?
Well, yeah, you're right. Before becoming the CEO here, I spent about 4 years as the chief operating officer here at DFW. So I've had a chance to get to know DFW over my 4 years, but candidly, the last 6 months as the CEO really do demonstrate really kind of a shift as you would expect. Running ops, which I've done my whole life, is all about kind of tactical handling the day's operation, obviously strategic outlook to what the future brings, but it's all about making the airport run. As the CEO, what I've really found is really I've come to really understand the relationship with the community in a deeper way, to understand how much this community relies on DFW. And by community, I really mean all of North Texas. We're such an economic engine for this region. And every time I talk to community members, they remind me of the interplay and the importance of the relationship. And candidly, that has probably been the most humbling aspect of my first 6 months in the role.
A few topics there that I'm sure we'll get to touch on later in our discussion, but let's assume most of our listeners know that DFW is a huge airport. If you're listening to the Airline Weekly Lounge and you don't know that, then you maybe have to go back and do your homework. But they might not realize that it's the third busiest commercial airport in the world, depending on your metric. Give us a quick overview of the current scale of the operation there, because it's big and it's getting even bigger, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, DFW, to your point, we're the third busiest airport in the world. My time here, what I would say is DFW can kind of sneak up on you. Some of our terminals, especially our older terminals, don't have that iconic stature that some newer international airports have. And our landscape is so vast that you kind of sneak into the central terminal area. And so you don't necessarily realize how enormous this operation is. In terms of scale, third busiest in the world, 27 square miles. That's a landmass the size of the island of Manhattan. Operations were also third largest in the world. And then in terms of what we see future growth as we expand essentially across all of our terminal buildings, renovating our existing terminal buildings with the exception of one, and then adding a new terminal into the complex, we think we'll grow to over 100 million customers by the 2030 range. So really, quite an extensive operation. We jokingly say, although it's true, that we have enough roadway to get from here all the way to San Diego, California. It's about 1,200 miles of roadway
Wow.
across the airport complex as a whole. So huge operation.
I'm sure you'd rather people flew there with the, but good to know you could lay out all the road and get there in the same way. But
Absolutely.
it's safe to say, using some of those descriptions there, Chris, that DFW is essentially a small city. How do you go about leading such a complex organization day to day?
Yeah, I mean, it's a small city. I mean, about 300,000 people a day transit through, just below 300,000 people a day transit through DFW, and then about 65,000 people a day come here, to work. So yeah, maybe it's a medium-sized city,
I
right?
was going to
Without,
say, yeah. I don't know about you.
without all the,
I'm from a relatively small city, and that would those sort of
yeah.
numbers would dwarf where I was from.
Yeah. But like a city, and unlike many airports at DFW, we have our own Department of Public Safety. It was written into the state statute when DFW was created more than 50 years ago. So we have our own police department, our own fire department, our own EMS, our own security. We service all the infrastructure. So our central utility plant, which is brand new, we just built a brand new state of the art, next generation electric utility plant. So all the things you would think of from a municipality, we do here at DFW. In terms of keeping the operation running, it's all about one, keeping eyes on. So we have an integrated ops center that manages the operation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's made up of about 120 employees that come from all aspects of the operation, constantly monitoring what's happening and what we expect to happen. We invest in technology that keeps eyes on the campus, technology that helps us predict future traffic flows, vehicle traffic, airline traffic, passenger traffic. We use systems to monitor our ground transportation, our train system, ensuring that everything is running in real time. And then, like any large organization, we always have to be prepared for our worst day. While we hope it never comes, we always have to be prepared for it. So, the level of training that our teams engage in from a fire perspective, daily training, from a compliance perspective with FAA regs, always preparing for, our triannual review and ensuring that our teams are equipped and ready to go, both here at DFW and then the regional partners that we participate with to ensure that we can put our best foot forward on the day that we need to the most.
Yeah, so many internal and external stakeholders to consider. It is incredibly impressive just as an outsider looking in. From a passenger, you get a feel when you're passing through the terminals and the broader complex that, hey, this is a place where a lot of people come to work, a lot of people pass through, but actually being able to put some numbers and insight onto that is really valuable, Chris. Thank you. You don't have to be an aviation historian to know that DFW was built with really some sort of extraordinary foresight. Thousands of acres, like you said, plenty of room to grow, strategically located in the heart of the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex. How do you continue that legacy of long-term thinking in an era of such rapid industry change? How are you balancing that future-proofing of the airport, which I'm sure is a priority for every chief executive,
Yeah.
with the unpredictable shifts that we're seeing now in terms of passenger behavior, technology, airline trends? How do you balance all of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really important balance. And I think, if you think about the difference, so maybe a little bit of a dichotomy in our industry is airlines plan on much shorter cycles. At an airport, we have to plan over the course of decades as opposed to months or years. And so, yes, we have to be thinking about what's going on in current passenger trends, what's happening with aircraft availability, aircraft type, aircraft modernization. What is the passenger looking for in terms of connecting versus point to point? What is the airline looking for? But we also have to make sure that this resource, this asset, is still a viable and responsive, resilient asset 50 years from now. So, as an example, we have 17,000 acres, as you pointed out, 27 square miles, as I pointed out earlier. Of those, about 6,000 acres are dedicated to our commercial space. And of the 6,000 acres, about 3,000 are already claimed. They already have buildings on them. So on the one hand, you could say, man, you've still got 3,000 acres to build into. But the way I look at it is a little different. The way I look at it is we only have 3,000 acres left to build into, and we have to preserve this great asset, this community asset, long into the future. So how do we be really thoughtful about our land use plan? How do we make sure that we're using each parcel of land for its highest and best use, in particular when that comes to aeronautical use? And then how do we use other land to complement those aeronautical missions? It's a daily activity for us. It's something we spend a lot of time on, and we take it very seriously. At the end of the day, for me, and I'll likely be long gone by this point because I'd be quite old. But 50 years from now, I certainly hope that my children and their children look at the DFW airport and are proud of the work that we did 50 years earlier.
Passing on the baton with a bit of future-facing thought there, Chris. When you go onto the DFW website, the message is currently DFW isn't just getting bigger and better. DFW is going monumental, which sort of speaks to the messaging. Can you give our listeners a quick progress check on the DFW Forward Capital Program? Because most of them probably know that works are underway. Just give us a real-time update on where that is and where that's going.
Yeah, so we're about a third into a $12 billion capital program at DFW, and that program touches on both roadways, runways, and then also the terminal buildings. So it's flat work and it's vertical work. And as I said earlier, it is rehabbing existing terminals, including one which I'm really kind of excited about, although it's operationally a challenge. Is so our Terminal C, which is our oldest terminal. It's 51 years old. It's the original build from 1974. We are literally tearing that terminal down and rebuilding it while we're still operating out of it. Our demand is so strong, the passenger volumes are so high that we can't afford to take a terminal out of service while we build a new one. So in the case of Terminal C, we're really taking it down a third at a time, rebuilding it so that we can continue to meet the operational demand. At the same time, we're adding gates into Terminal A. We're preparing to renovate aspects of Terminal E to upgauge those gates. We're upgauging some gates in Terminal B. And then maybe as a capstone, we're building the Terminal F, which will become our sixth terminal. We've started that work, and we're anticipating phase one opening in the summer of 2027. We're using a modular construction design to build that terminal. What does that mean? It means that we built 6 modules off-site, and then in the month of August, in the middle of the night, we moved them one at a time across the airfield and into place. Now, to put this into perspective, it's 6 of them, the largest of which is the size of a football field, whether American football or any football, and the weight of 12 787 Dreamliners. And we did 6 of those over the course of about 9 days in the month of August. An incredible feat, which sets the foundation for phase one of Terminal F, which again will open in the summer or late summer of 2027.
Everything's bigger in Texas, as they say.
Everything truly is.
This is the Airline Weekly Lounge. We love airlines here. We know a lot of our listeners do as well. The DFW long haul network in particular keeps expanding. It feels like every other month you've got a new long haul route launch. Cathay Pacific, Royal Jordanian, Taiwan's Viva Air. The list goes on. I'm sure there's a lot of US airports who would love to see those names landing on their runway. What, in your opinion, is driving this growth? Is it the general North Texas economy? Is it something special you're doing? Is it global factors, internal factors? Give us a little bit of insight around what you think is the driver for this very impressive roster of airlines that you're curating.
Yeah. So look, on a couple of different fronts, and I'll start with what you mentioned about North Texas. We know that, North Texas, that the DFW Metroplex is the fastest growing Metroplex in the country. We expect to surpass Chicagoland here in a few years and become the third largest Metroplex in the country. North Texas offers so much for employers. We have Fortune 500 companies moving here on a regular basis, and we believe that we're poised to continue to grow and to offer something unique for those customers. What I hear from executives in the companies that move here is that one of the driving factors is the ability for their employees and their clients to quickly get from here to virtually anywhere in the world. That's about 269 destinations across the world, about 193 in the US and 79 internationally. I say about because those numbers, as you pointed out, are changing on a regular basis. Domestically, you can hit any major city in the US in less than 4 hours. So, DFW is uniquely positioned for this growth. I will say, though, on a more personal note, it doesn't just happen. So I'm really, really proud of our air service development team, a team led by a veteran, Milton De La Paz, who's been doing this work for a long time. And a lot of the fruit that we're starting to see, Cathay, EVA, work that Americans doing to grow their network with Athens in the spring, in Zurich next year as well, Royal Jordanian. A lot of that work, it's all bearing fruit this year, but it started years ago. And Milton and his team are constantly on the road, constantly explaining to air carriers what DFW has to offer, working with American to coordinate the network with some of their one world partners so that we can really, really take a twofold approach to this. On the one hand, it's pull. North Texas has a lot to offer. And on the other hand, it's push. How can we push you into understanding the need to fly to DFW?
You mentioned some of the new flag carriers coming in to serve DFW. People will still know the airport, or many people listening will still know the airport as being an American Airlines hub and a bit of a one world alliance fortress. I'm sure that's something you're very proud of. But how do you balance the existing customers, your anchor tenants, if you like, if we were to use a shopping mall analogy, with welcoming new entrants? Can the airport truly be something for everyone? And by that, I mean just as welcoming to an ultra low cost carrier as it would be a traditional legacy operator.
I mean, I think we can, right? I mean, I think we are well known for being a fortress hub for American. American represents about 82% of our existing traffic. But keep in mind, even with our growth, which it's important to point out, as we grow additional gates, and our capacity will go up about 20% at DFW as we finish out Terminal F and add to A and add to C. But that represents growth not just for American, but also a substantial amount of growth for our other airlines. In terms of other airline growth capacity, that number is roughly 30+% growth for other airlines, if my math is correct. So we believe that we have to offer something for everyone. American has a great network in and out of DFW, but we know there's a strong pull to our ultra low cost carriers. Some of them are growing quite well here and expect to continue to grow. And then we also have a strong presence from the Uniteds and the Deltas of the world, who offer something unique for their customers. We truly think that there's room for everybody to grow at DFW. And we know that our customers are diverse and they have different needs and different desires. And we want to be able to meet each and every one of those needs.
And before we get into part two, a quick reminder to send any questions or comments that you might have for us to podcasts@skift.com. That's podcasts with an S at the end. And please don't forget to follow or subscribe to the podcast, wherever you're listening or watching. And if you are enjoying the show, please rate us 5 stars or leave us a positive review so we can continue to spread the word about the Airline Weekly Lounge. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Chris in part 2.
We're about to lard in Orange County. Thank you for frying with hash today. We look forward to feeding you shortcake. If this is your fennel destination, welcome hummus. If not, we dish you a great steak.
At DFW Airport, we know that when you get on a plane hungry, it's all you can think about. So order online. Go to dfwordernow.com, choose your meal, and get it at any gate or pick it up. Here at DFW Airport, you can dine without the line.
Hello and welcome back to the Airline Weekly Lounge. I'm Gordon Smith, and in this special episode, I'm joined by Chris McLaughlin, CEO of Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. Chris, we covered quite a few topics in part 1. One area we didn't get to was technology, and there are so many buzzwords, big data, AI, predictive analytics, biometrics, automation. The list of jargon, buzzwords, whatever you want to call them, depending on how polite you want to be, it can feel dizzying, particularly to those who are not in the CTO brief or really sort of in the weeds of it. Let's cut through the noise if we can. Where do you see the biggest gains coming from technology-wise in the next few years? Where's the lowest hanging fruit and where are we going?
Well, you're right. I mean, in terms of the list, it is exhaustive and sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. In terms of the biggest gains, I actually think it starts with the data itself, right? I mean, the ones and the zeros. We have compiled 50 years worth of data across this airport. And like many, I suspect, of my peers, in many cases that information is disaggregated. In some cases, it's certainly in multiple different systems, and some of those systems are more archaic than others. And in a couple, they're still manual, they're still paper. And so, step one in any kind of digital transformation for me is getting the data itself put into a repository, a lake that gives you quick and easy access to it across your various business units. So at DFW, we've been heavily engaged at what we call Data 360, which is just bringing the data together in a way that's usable by all different groups. And then candidly, we've changed the way we're working all together in our technology services division. So we're taking a product approach to technology where we're working from a business in perspective. What does the business need? And then how does the business work with our technology partners to build out solutions or buy them if they're available off the shelf to meet the needs of the customer? What does that mean for us? In the next couple of years, we're working on a product that will allow us to streamline something like work orders. Now, that maybe doesn't sound that kind of sexy, but in an airport our size, we're generating hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of work orders every single day. Some of those are duplicates. Some of those could be coordinated much more easily if there was a better view into available information. So we're building out a product that so far in the early phases has allowed us to streamline our daily schedules by as much as 30%. Now that represents real savings as we move forward. So those are some big areas. We're working on other areas to help better understand traffic patterns. We're using AI face recognition to speed employees and customers through the airport. We're working with the federal government on a pilot called One Stop Security, which embeds AI security services as well as passenger facilitation to improve the connecting passenger experience for international arrivals right now from the UK. We're using technology to identify vehicles by type as they maneuver through different areas of the airport so that we can know whether they belong or don't belong. And then one that I would mention that's a little bit timely is UAS, drones, which has been a problem for much of the globe for the last several years. We've leaned into technology to help us keep a better eye on what drones are flying in our airspace, when they're flying there, who are they authorized, and where's their pilot? So, from everything from passenger facilitation to managing maintenance schedules to the safety and security of our airfield, we know that we've got to lean way far forward when it comes to technology advancement.
Yeah, it's reassuring to know that it's not just airlines that are sometimes lumbered with a bit of legacy software that they need to work around. There are technology gremlins everywhere, and it sounds like there's a lot of work still to be done across the industry. But it sounds like you're on the front foot there, certainly with some of your initiatives. Just on the topic of initiatives, Chris, DFW's sustainability initiatives are, certainly around the environment. I would say they're pretty well documented, but there's another aspect of sustainability that I know you're pretty passionate about, and that's ensuring a resilient future, a resilient airport. Explain
Yeah.
to our listeners why that's so important.
Yeah. I mean, sustainability for us isn't a buzzword, right? The goals that we've set for ourselves aren't about hitting random goals. They're about doing what's right for our airport for the long haul. And so when we think about sustainability, I mean, think conservation for a minute. Think about 27 square miles of land with waterways running through it, with different soil types from one side of the airport to the other, with changes in the environment in terms of the amount of concrete that's laid down in North Texas. And how do we make sure, as I said earlier, how do we make sure that as we build out this campus, we do it responsibly so that in 50 years, we're not suffering from effects of erosion, so that in 50 years, the ecosystem is still healthy and can still sustain the ongoing operation of the airport. So we think about that constantly. We think about it all the time. By the way, we remain committed to our goals. We think we're still on track to hit our scope one and scope two 2030 goals, which is about 20 years ahead of industry. We recently built, I mentioned it earlier, in what we call an ECUP. It's a central utility plant that relies heavily on wind generated power from West Texas, allows us to reduce our natural gas burn by about 78%. And so that is a huge step forward in our work to achieve our carbon net zero goals by 2030. And we remain committed to doing just that.
You referenced some of the goals there around sustainability, Chris. Another target that I know is front of mind is the 100 million passengers target. And we describe it. I describe that certainly as a target, but it sounds like almost it's the direction of travel. Talk us through the latest forecast, because I know there's maybe some talk around hitting that 100 million figure even earlier than you were expecting.
Yeah, and I think, when we talk about the forecast, it's really important right now to do our best to insulate our thinking away from this short-term noise, right? I mean, this has been a disruptive year, and despite that disruption, we think the future remains bright. We think actually that we're likely to hit the 100 million passenger number before 2030. Now, there's a lot that goes into play there. Obviously, we're building out our gate count, as I mentioned. That gate count, that Terminal F, will add 8 wide body international capable gates, which means that we don't just expand in terms of number of gates, but also in terms of our gauge. But some of those gates come online a little bit later. So our ability to hit 100 million before 2030 will be somewhat dependent on when the gates are built. And then also, we still do struggle as we talk to carriers around the globe about when they expect to fly into DFW. The single limiting factor for many carriers still remains aircraft availability. So that will play into the timeline. If I had a crystal ball, I would think somewhere in the 28, maybe early 29 timeframe is when we're likely to hit that number.
Completely agree with your comment there around aircraft availability, Chris. Certainly, when I speak to airline executives, they're saying we would love to fly to to destination ABC, but we just don't have the aircraft. And it's also about the route frequency as well as the operating new ONDs. So, it's not just a case of getting into DFW maybe 3 times a week with a new long haul service. Maybe they want to ramp that up straight away to 5 times or even daily, but they just simply don't have the aircraft. So really interesting to hear how that can trickle down the airport and the broader aviation ecosystem.
Yeah, if I could touch on that a minute though, I mean, one thing I'll say about the strength of our market, which I'm really excited about, is one of the markets that has suffered for us since COVID is Asia, and we really think that there's more to do there. But two of our carriers, Cathay Pacific and then EVA, both have the same experience. Cathay launched in April, and they told us that it would, likely take them a year or so, but ultimately they'd like to get to daily service at DFW. They are going to daily service in December. So 8 months after starting, they're moving to daily service. And then EVA, who started in October, has already announced daily service beginning in December as well. So we think, again, the market is strong. And once we get a carrier here, we think we can demonstrate to them that there is enough demand to support even incremental service beyond what they launch with.
Just a few top line topics to wrap up, Chris. What would you say your top priorities are for the next 12 to 18 months? I can only imagine how long your to-do list is. You and your team obviously coming together with a number of immediate projects and also those longer term.
Yeah.
Define if you can, the top priorities.
Yeah, for the next 12 to 18 months, and this may not sound strategic enough, but I have to tell you, it's go time. It's crunch time right now for us. The next 12 to 18 months is really the heart of this capital program. In the next 12 to 18 months, we will have completely revamped the road that runs through the center of our airport, our International Parkway. We will open new gates in the partially renovated Terminal C. We will open new gates in Terminal A. We will be, if my math is right, opening the first phase of Terminal F. And then we'll still have work to do on phases 2 and 3 for F and on finishing out Terminal C beyond that. But the next 12 to 18 months is all about the infrastructure program while keeping our eyes on the operation in real time. I can't overemphasize that enough. This airport is so busy that we can't take a break. We've got to keep going. We've got the FIFA World Cup here in the summer. North Texas is hosting 9 matches, more than anybody else in the country. And we've got to make sure that we're prepared operationally, even though we'll be literally in the middle of this extensive capital program at the same time.
Never a dull moment.
That's true.
Here's a final one for you. Complete the sentence. The future of DFW Airport is ...
The future of DFW Airport is dependent on our ability to innovate and be planful and mindful for the future demands in North Texas, which I think will be extensive in the coming years.
Well, we look forward to following your progress, Chris. And that brings us to the end of a special episode of the Airline Weekly Lounge. Thanks again to Chris McLaughlin from Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport for being so generous with his time. Thanks too to our producers, Monica and Will, and wherever you are in the world. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye for now.
Whether you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, please make sure to subscribe, rate us 5 stars, or leave us a positive review. This really helps us get the word out about the Airline Weekly Lounge, so we can continue to bring you this podcast every week, absolutely free of charge. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the Skift channel and hit the notification bell to find out whenever a new video drops.